Hello and welcome to another episode of Geared Toward Gear. My name is Sean and I am so glad you're here. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to check out the video. So today we're taking a look at this flashlight right here. This is the essentially brand new offering from Olight, is the M2R Pro Warrior, which is the new and improved version of the older M2R Warrior. So I recently did a video comparing these two flashlights, and I recently got this new leather belt sheath for my S2R2 from RG2 Leatherworks. It's amazing. But I did a video, it was really a review of this light, the Baton Pro. And in that video, I essentially said that it was not really much of an upgrade to the S2R, and that I thought this was the better EDC flashlight, and that this was not really worth it, and you should buy one of these instead of one of these. And that video has been viewed thousands of times, surprisingly, and many people agree with me. Many people disagree with me pretty strongly. So today we're going to kind of do the same thing, compare the new and improved version of the M2R to the previous version of the M2R and see if it is in fact an improvement. And I'll tell you right now, it is a huge improvement. So this video is going to be very different from the video I did on the Baton Pro. I was not thrilled with this light, although it's perfectly fine. It functions really well, and a lot of people really do like this. In this case, Olight, I think, got it right. They upgraded the M2R beautifully, practically, and it's fundamentally a different flashlight than the previous version. With the with the Baton Pro, it uses the same battery as the S2R. It just has a different beam pattern, different internals. It's brighter, but as far as lumens, max lumens, but I just didn't think it was that much of a fundamental upgrade. But that's not the case here. The M2R Pro Warrior is a fantastic flashlight, and they did an excellent job with this upgrade. So what did they do to upgrade the light? Just real quickly, kind of the things that are obvious is it's a little bigger, right? So the size of the light, both the length and the girth or the diameter is slightly larger on the new M2R Pro, and that's because it uses a different battery altogether. The M2R Warrior uses a 18650 battery, and we'll look at the batteries in a moment, whereas the M2R Pro, the new and improved version, uses a 21700, and that's a very important distinction and a very important upgrade, because it essentially is the catalyst for a lot of the other statistical improvements. So it's not sacrificing much in terms of how much larger it is. It's really negligible, probably about 1/8 of an inch longer, and maybe like a 32nd of an inch bigger in diameter. So practically speaking, if you can carry an M2R in your pocket for EDC, you can carry an M2R Pro, period. If you're used to carrying an S2R, that's a bit of a jump to go from an S2R to a Warrior Pro, because that's a big difference in size. But if we're just comparing the previous generation to the current generation, it is negligible, so don't even worry about it. These are both, of course, also compatible as weapons lights. You can purchase these in a bundle that comes with a remote switch. I did not opt for that because I don't personally like these as weapons lights, but that's just my personal preference. What else is fundamentally different? So it's a larger battery. It's a 21700. In addition, it charges at 2 amps instead of 1 amp. So it charges 100% faster, so twice as fast. It has a longer throw, a longer beam distance. It has longer run times. It is brighter. It has a higher candela. Like every spec that I can rattle off, this one beats this one. And that was not the case with the Baton Pro when comparing it to the S2R. So let's bring in the boxes, if I can find them. I know they're around here somewhere. here's the box for the M2R Pro Warrior. And I opted for the camouflage coloration, which was limited edition, I guess, during their flash sale. I personally like it. Some people really don't, but they do offer it in just plain black. And they go for $110. That's the retail cost for an M2R Pro is $110. The retail cost for an M2R is $90. So you're paying an extra $20 to go from the M2R to the M2R Pro, and I think it is a $20 very well spent. And here's the reason. Let's take a quick look at the batteries. So in the M2R, we're going to find an 18650, and this is a proprietary battery, 3.6 volts, 3,500 milliamp hours. That is the capacity. That's how much energy essentially this battery can store, is 3,500 milliamp hours. Okay, so now let's check the battery on the Pro Warrior, and we'll find that it's a physically larger battery. It is a 21700. It's also 3.6 volts, but the capacity is 5,000 milliamp hours. So it literally has more capacity, more stored energy than the 18650, and it's physically larger in size. So the fact that this has 5,000 milliamp hours of capacity is going to allow it to do certain things like have longer run times than the standard M2R. And that was not true for the Baton Pro when comparing it to the S2R. So let's get these batteries back in here. One thing to note on the 21700 battery for the Pro Warrior is that you can put in any other 21700 battery. It will still work, but in order to use the magnetic charging function, you have to use the Olight's proprietary battery. So just keep that in mind. Like if this goes dead and you have another 21700 lying around, throw it in there, it'll work just fine. You simply won't be able to charge it using the magnetic charging cable that comes with the flashlight. And just real quick to show you what comes with it is going to be a holster. So you get a holster here, and then in this little box you get your charging cable, your lanyard, and your instruction manual. So that's what comes in the box. It's a nice little magnetic closure. Got your specs right there. So that's the box. Here's the old M2R Warrior box. And let's just quickly look at the specs, and then we'll head outside and I'll give you a couple beam shots to show you the difference between the two. So if we look at the front of the box, we're going to notice that the M2R Pro has a maximum capability of producing 1800 lumens. The older M2R has a max of 1500, so it's 300 lumens brighter, which is not statistically significant, the difference between 15 and 18, but it is brighter. The throw, or the distance that the light will travel, on the old version is 208 meters. On the new version, it's 300 meters. So it's increased by almost 100 meters. So brighter, and it goes further. So what are we sacrificing to get brighter, and what are we sacrificing to go further? In this case, we're not sacrificing anything, actually. We're improving in every category. So if we look at the highest setting, the turbo setting on the new version, we'll notice that the turbo is 1800 lumens for 4.5 minutes. The old version is 1500 lumens for 3 minutes. Less brightness for less time. On the new one, more brightness for longer. That's a win-win-win. And the same is going to be true for every setting. On high, on the old one, 700 lumens for 2 hours. On the new one, 750 lumens for 2 hours and 40 minutes. Okay, and the same if we keep going down, medium, 250 lumens for 10 hours versus 250 lumens for just 6 hours. On medium number 2, 60 lumens for 40 hours, 60 lumens for 20 hours, twice the runtime on the same brightness. On low, it's 15 lumens for 130 hours versus 15 lumens for 70 hours. Same thing with moonlight, 1 lumen, 25 days, 1 lumen, 50 days. So in a lot of cases, we're getting double the runtime for the same output. Okay, so these output levels, we're getting significantly better runtime because we have a fundamentally different power source. We have a different battery altogether, so it's just a fundamentally better flashlight. There's no two ways about it. How do these things work? Very simple. To get to moonlight, as with most Olight flashlights, just press and hold the side switch. It also does have a tail clicky. Press and hold, and you're going to go to your lowest setting, which is your moonlight, and that is going to be, did I screw it on all the way? I may have put the battery in backwards. Let me check and see if I got carried away and put it in the wrong direction. Did I? I don't think I did. Well, let's try it this way, see what happens. Bear with me, guys and gals. Okay, I had it in backwards. Okay, so press and hold, you go to your lowest setting, that's your moonlight. Press it again, it turns off. The tail switch is going to take you straight to turbo, either momentary, or click it and it stays on. Once it's on, if you press and hold the side switch, you're just going to cycle through your brightness levels. And you may have noticed that green light, that is your battery status indicator. We've got green, green, yellow, and red, depending on how much battery you have. And green is like over 70%, orange I believe is over 30%, and red is like you need to charge it. It's like 10% or something like that. So that's the basic functionality, and the same is true on the M2R Warrior, the previous version. You press and hold for your lowest setting, and then just press and hold to cycle through your brightness levels using the side switch. Press one time to turn off. The tail switch, which looks different on the new version than the old one. They function the same though. Press for momentary turbo or click it on in turbo. So they both offer you instant access to turbo using the tail switch, and you cycle through your brightness levels using the side switches. So that's the functionality is basically identical. Another cool feature with the M2R is that the pocket clip is removable and replaceable in terms of where it is on the light. So I have it configured so that when it's in my pocket, it carries very deep with the bezel pointing down, okay? Bezel pointing down, tail switch pointing up, and it's gonna carry super, super deep in my pocket. It also is reversible to put on like the bill of a cap, but I can just simply pop this thing off, and it does not mar up the finish if you're using the factory pocket clip. I can turn the light around, put the pocket clip right here. Now it's going to carry bezel facing up, but it's not going to carry nearly as deep. As you can see, you're going to have quite a bit sticking out of your pocket. And then same thing, you could still put it on the bill of your cap. So you technically have two positions for the clip, but the clip itself has two positions. So really there's four different ways that you could conceivably carry this flashlight. I personally prefer to carry it bezel down. And real quick tip, when you're changing these clips, don't grab it and just pull it. Take your two fingers and take those little tabs on the pocket clip. You see that little tab there? One on each side. Just put your fingers on those tabs and just kind of pull slightly and push away from yourself. It'll pop right off, flip it around, snap it on, and you're good to go. So that is the M2R Pro Warrior. It's just, again, it's a fundamentally improved flashlight. It also does have a different optic, and we'll see the kind of the beam pattern once we get outside, so you can see the type of pattern that this thing puts out. But as you'll notice on the older version, you've got an orange peel reflector, which typically is going to give you some diffusion and some kind of flood. So it's not going to be just a straight, laser beam, which is not a bad thing. It's still a great flashlight, the M2R. On the newer M2R Pro, you've got a TIR optic. It is smooth in there, and it's just a different optic in general. So we'll see the difference between the two once we get outside. But I just wanted to do this video to kind of talk to you about the new and improved M2R Pro Warrior, and really tell you that if you're looking for a very much full-size duty light, full-size EDC light, full-size emergency kit light, full-size weapon light, whatever your use is for a light such as this. If you're looking at the M2R for $90, I would say forget about it and pay the extra $20 and get the M2R Pro, because you're getting significantly increased runtime and it's brighter at the same time, which is, again, a win-win across the board. They really did a good job and really thought out this product. So out with the old and in with the new. This is the one you want. Again, if you haven't seen the video where I compared these two lights, I kind of felt the opposite. I felt like this was not very well thought out, and you should just kind of forget about that one and stick with the old standby, the old S2R. In this case, it's all about the M2R Pro Warrior. Great flashlight, great job by Olight. So let's head outside and see what these things can do, so you can really get a feel for the type of beam pattern and a comparison between the two. So stand by and I'll meet you in the backyard. Hello and welcome to the backyard. So here we are, we're going to do a quick beam comparison between the older M2R Warrior and the new M2R Pro Warrior. So I've got just a little bit of lighting here so I can kind of see what I'm doing, and we're going to shine it on the tree as we typically do, and on the shed. The tree is about 40 feet, the shed is about 100, 110. So we'll start with the M2R Pro, or I'm sorry, we'll start with the M2R, the standard M2R Warrior, and that's my son's little four-wheeler, don't worry about that. And then we'll move to the new M2R Pro. Something you'll probably notice is that the Pro has a more focused hotspot, and it is warmer in its color temperature. So it may not come across on camera, but it appears a little more yellow. The older version appears a little more blue. So let's start with the old M2R Warrior, and we'll start on the tree. So that tree right there is about 40, maybe 50 feet from where we're standing, and that shed straight away is at about 100, 110 feet, and that is the M2R Warrior. You'll notice it's a very floody beam. It's lighting up a large swath of the yard, and it's a pretty cool temperature, pretty blue, or at least very bright white to the eye. So that is the M2R Warrior. Now we're going to switch to the new M2R Pro Warrior. We'll do the same thing. We'll start on the tree, and you may notice right away that the hotspot is much more defined. And let's switch over to the shed. It may be easier to tell. It's definitely lighting up the shed much brighter than the standard M2R Warrior. It's definitely more yellow to the eye. It's a more pleasing color to the eye, in my opinion. There's still plenty of spill and flood. I can see all the same stuff I could see with the M2R Warrior, but with the Pro, I get a little more focused hotspot. So as far as the brightness, with them being so close, 1500 lumens versus 1800, you may not notice a huge difference other than the beam pattern and the beam color. So let's do a side-by-side. On the left is going to be the old version, the M2R Warrior, and on the right is the new version, the M2R Pro Warrior. So you may be able to tell that there's a much more defined kind of circular hotspot with the Pro, and a more kind of diffuse, floody pattern with the older version. I much prefer the more defined hotspot because, again, it still provides plenty of spill. So there's a difference. M2R Warrior, old version. M2R Warrior Pro, new version. So there's your beam shots. Thank you guys all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I will talk to you soon.